If you're thinking of starting a nonprofit or working for a nonprofit, you might be wondering what the average staff salaries for paid positions at these organizations might be. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you might expect in terms of those salary ranges for nonprofits and how those ranges have changed since the year before that. Welcome back. My name is Amber Melanie Smith. I'm a nonprofit founder and executive director of the nonprofit that I started. I make these videos here on YouTube to help people who are interested in making a social impact, whether that's through starting a nonprofit or social enterprise, service leadership, and more. I really hope that, as always, you find this video helpful and educational, and don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. And if you're in the process of starting a nonprofit or developing a sustainable fundraising plan for a nonprofit, don't forget to check out my website, foundertofulltime.com, where I've got some online trainings there that might help you out. So if you've been watching my channel for a little while, you might remember that in 2020, I actually did a similar video where I first talked about the average staff salaries at nonprofit organizations in the United States. I also talked about this ongoing dialogue that is happening across the nonprofit sector about paying fair wages in the nonprofit world, and that I would be curious to see how the data on staff salaries would change over the next few years. Many factors have contributed to the financial stability of organizations over the past couple of years. During the pandemic, a lot of organizations took a financial hit, and on the other side, some organizations found that donations and support surged. So you see a wide spectrum of financial situations for organizations now in 2022. And of course, all of this impacts hiring tendencies of organizations as well as offered salaries. In this video, I'm going to talk about the latest salary data in the nonprofit sector across the United States. The report that I will be referring to is from GuideStar. It's from 2021, and I will be showing how those numbers compare to the same data from 2020 to see what has changed. But before I get into that, I just want to do a quick recap of the different factors that could influence what the salary is at a nonprofit organization. Okay, the first one is obvious, and that is, what is the job position? What is the role that is being hired for? People who are directors or managers, like the chief executive officer, aka the executive director, or a fund development director, these positions are higher up in the managerial scheme, and so they're more likely to command higher salaries. Fascinatingly, what type of nonprofit it is can also impact salary ranges. In the reports that I've been looking at, for example, it's interesting to see that animal-related organizations often have lower salaries than, for example, arts or education organizations. Another factor is the annual budget of the nonprofit organization. Obviously, an organization that has a budget of $250,000 a year is unlikely to be able to pay their staff the same as an organization with a $5 million budget per year. Another factor is the location of the nonprofit. Just like any job market or job situation, the salaries are going to be likely to follow the costs of living and the salary expectations for those in a particular local community. And of course, the experience of the job candidate is going to impact the salary that might be offered to them as well, but that's true in any sector. All right, let's get into the comparison here from the 2020 numbers to the 2021 numbers. In my original video, I broke this down by the staff position, and so I will be doing the same here. And I'm going to be highlighting the numbers around 4 key positions. That's the executive director, a fund development manager or director, a marketing manager, and a programs manager. Let's start with the executive director. Once again, this is senior level position, usually the highest paid position in a nonprofit organization. So I have, for organizations under a $250,000 budget, and like I said before, that's an important criteria that impacts salary ranges. For an executive director in 2020, I noted that the average salary was about $46,000 with a range that's lowest to highest of $20,000 to $76,000. Now, here's where we're at in 2021. In 2021, the average has only gone up a little bit. I'm seeing an average here of $47,000, but the range is $21,000 to $78,000. So I'm actually a little bit surprised that there hasn't been more movement here, but the ranges are pretty similar to where they were in 2020. However, when you get to a larger organization, I got all excited because I thought something was going to be different, but it turns out numbers are pretty similar. For organizations with a budget of $250,000 to $500,000, so a little bit bigger, but we're still not talking about a really large organization here. The average ED salary, executive director salary, is $69,000. So between the smaller and the slightly larger organization, the average does go up a bit. But the range is $32,000 to $110,000. So you see this range getting wider here. In 2021, it's basically the exact same. You have a $69,000 average, but the range is now $33,000 at the low end to $110,000 per year. So I have to say there's barely any movement at all on the executive director salary range, at least according to this particular compensation report by GuideStar. It's a little disappointing, but let's see how some of the other positions fared. All right, now we're going to talk about your fundraising managers or fund development managers. These are your positions that are doing your fundraising strategy. They're out there raising money a lot. It's often a very highly valued role in an organization, and usually one of the ones that commands one of the higher salaries. So for those organizations that are under $250,000, in 2020, I said the average salary was $37,000. And the range for that was $18,000 to $54,000. In 2021, we still just see a little bit of movement on the average. The average is $38,000, but the range is very interesting. The range changed a little bit. It got wider. The range is now $16,000 to $69,000. So you see a lot higher of a salary on that high end, but weirdly a slightly lower salary on the low end. I'm not sure what to make of that. Now, as the organization gets a little bit bigger, for that $250,000 to $500,000 a year budget for this fund development manager position, you've got in 2020, the average was $51,000 and the range was $20,000 to $78,000. So it's a pretty big range still. But fascinatingly, in 2021, the average does go up a decent amount. The average is now $56,000 with a range of $22,000 to $114,000. So again, that range is just expanding, showing the great diversity of approaches that nonprofits across the country are taking in terms of staff compensation. I'm not sure what to attribute to these changes and the broadening of these ranges. One hypothesis that comes to mind is maybe new nonprofit organizations were being formed, and when you're newer and smaller, of course you are either unable to hire paid staff at all, or you have to try to hire them at a low range. So possibly that is something that could have influenced the change in the range of salaries there. It's just really fascinating. Let's talk about marketing managers next. And for these, I don't have a range, but I do have the averages. So in 2020, for that smaller organization size of under $250,000 per year, the average salary was $30,000. In 2021, we do see that average salary go up to $36,000. So that's a significant percentage increase for that. Now with those larger organizations, we're seeing something similar happen. That $250,000 to $500,000 range, you've got $40K being the average. I would expect that actually to be slightly higher, but that's 2020. In 2021, we do see a $51,000 average. So that is, again, a pretty big jump from those averages. I wonder if people are during the sort of great shifting around of positions that people seem to be doing, I wonder if people are coming over to the nonprofit world from the business world, which usually commands higher salaries, and influencing and putting pressure on these nonprofits to pay a little bit higher. So that's another interesting theory as to why, for example, a marketing position might have seen a bigger jump than some of these others. Finally, let's talk about your programs managers. These are usually the leaders who are overseeing how your program is functioning, making sure that you've got your volunteers doing what they're needing to do, scheduling them, making sure that the people that your organization is helping are getting that direct service. So once again, for these smaller organizations, we're seeing in 2020 that $36,000 average salary. And in 2021 for the program manager position, we're seeing just slight movement here to $38,000 average. Now for that slightly larger organization size, 250 to 500,000, we do see a little bit of a change. The average in 2020 was 50,000. And in 2021, for whatever reason, the data is not available in this report, but based on the other positions, I would probably guess that it would have stayed at that range or slightly higher, 50 to 52K maybe. Now, when you hit an annual budget of $1 million or more, you do see significant movement in the staff salaries. You might see an executive director who at a middle range would be getting $100,000 per year or so. At this point, I'd love to get your impressions. Were the numbers higher or lower than you expected? What surprised you most about this information and how it has changed or hasn't changed over the past year or so? Share in the comments below. And as I mentioned before, if you are starting a nonprofit or developing a sustainable fundraising plan or trying to develop a sustainable fundraising plan for your organization, I've got some great trainings and resources available at my website, foundertofulltime.com, and I hope you check those out. And if you're looking for resources and funding opportunities and stuff like that, I do a newsletter for nonprofit leaders and change makers. You can subscribe to that and opt out anytime you like, but the link to subscribe is in the description of my video here, so definitely check that out too if that's something that you're interested in receiving. One more thing, I promise. Check out my group, Change the World or Bust on Facebook. We have 3,000 people in there from all around the world who are interested in making impact in various ways and sharing what they're working on in the group. So please come on by, Change the World or Bust. I'd love to have you become a part of our little community there. Once again, I hope that this video was helpful and educational. I'm Amber Melanie Smith. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks, bye.